Thank God that the election is almost here, man, because until it gets here, we're going to keep seeing more and more of these pet Republicans get paraded around by all their liberal handlers in the media. You know, the Adam Kinzingers of the world, the Paul Ryans, the Liz Cheneys. These people have no real values, man. They have no real beliefs. Nothing about them is genuine or authentic. And they won't go away, man. This is Liz Cheney nowadays.
As a conservative, as someone who believes in and cares about the Constitution, I have thought deeply about this. And because of the danger that Donald Trump poses, not only am I not voting for Donald Trump, but I will be voting for Kamala Harris.
Dude, she says she's thought long and hard about this as a conservative, right? And as someone who cares deeply for the Constitution. Apparently, it's not enough for her to not vote for Donald Trump, but she's actually going to be voting for Kamala Harris, she says. I got to tell you, man, this is less than meaningless. I mean, maybe if she actually campaigned for Harris, I think maybe that might be something to someone somewhere, maybe. But Liz Cheney's a resident of Wyoming, man. Trump carried Wyoming by almost 70 points, which is also about the same margin she lost her Republican primary by, right? Her vote is even more meaningless than her actual words, right? And that's pretty hard to do, right? I mean, all Liz Cheney is a willing participant in anti-Trump propaganda. She doesn't actually believe voting for Kamala Harris is some sort of principled conservative stand. I mean, this is what she actually thinks of Kamala Harris.
Joining me now, Wyoming Congresswoman and Republican Conference Chair Liz Cheney. I bring up the word radical because it seems that is how Republicans are focusing their attack now on his newly named pick, Kamala Harris. Will that attack work, Congresswoman?
Well, hi, Sandra. Thank you for having me. And look, I think that the pick was somewhat surprising. Joe Biden has really been trying to portray himself as the moderate in this race, as somebody who is a centrist. And in one fell swoop here, he has put somebody on the ticket whose voting record in the Senate is to the left of Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. So I think that, the American people are going to look at the substance of this. They're going to look at what she stood for in the past. They're going to look at what she said during the primary election. And it's very clear. She is a radical liberal. She's somebody that has said we ought to spend $32 trillion on Medicare for all. If you look at her record as well in California, she did, in fact, essentially ban gun sales with executive action. And she threatened during the primaries to do the same thing if she's elected, if she were elected here. So I do think the American people are going to take a look at this record and realize she is very much a radical liberal.
To your point about her track record, her voting record, GovTrack this morning saying she has established a voting record as one of the most liberal members of the U.S. Senate. The Wall Street Journal editorial board put this piece out this morning looking at her record. The Democrats choose Harris, they write. Biden bows to the party's requirements with the California senator. In choosing Harris as his running mate on Tuesday, Joe Biden checked the essential boxes his party had demanded. A woman, a minority, and a progressive who has moved left as the Democratic Party has.
Just think about who these people actually are, like who they really, really are. Liz Cheney is such a principled conservative that she'll vote for someone that she believed to be the most radical option just 4 years ago, right? Because that person just so happens to be running against the only American politician who has ever been honest enough to say that her father lied about weapons of mass destruction and possibly committed war crimes, right? And Donald Trump is a guy that she fully and completely hates. But of course, you're supposed to believe she's just principled. Liz Cheney is very, very principled. Liz Cheney is a tool, man. She is one of the last standing examples of the traditional neocons, right? And their desire to maintain the corrupt UniParty empowering basically status quo, right? To me, it's that simple. It really is that simple. And this is where those people stand. If it's between America, the American public, and the America First agenda, or price controls and the worst communist tax policy in history, they're going to choose communism every single time, man. And J.D. Vance and Charlie Kirk, they had a pretty fantastic conversation about it. And they absolutely destroyed her, right? And I'm going to show you this, man. But as you watch this, try to imagine how it's even possible for the victims of the left to hear the words that these guys are saying and somehow think that they're the ones that are the bad guys.
Big endorsement. Liz Cheney endorsed Kamala Harris.
Oh, no.
And it's so interesting, isn't it, that every failed warmonger in the established D.C., let's just say, machine is behind Kamala Harris. That the peacemakers are behind Trump and Vance. Blessed are the peacemakers, is what the scriptures say. Your thoughts, JD?
Well, maybe the best thing, not the very best thing, but a very good thing that I could say about the next presidency of Donald J. Trump is that he's going to make sure that people like Liz Cheney are laughed out of the Oval Office instead of rewarded, because this is a person whose entire career has been about sending other people's children off to fight and die for her military conflicts and her ridiculous ideas that somehow we were going to turn Afghanistan, a country that doesn't even have running water in a lot of places, into a thriving liberal democracy. And for that, Liz Cheney was willing to kill thousands of your children. Liz Cheney, you know what? I think it's the best thing in the world that she's supporting Kamala Harris. You are right. Blessed are the peacemakers. Kamala Harris and Liz Cheney make very, very interesting partners. They get rich when America's sons and daughters go off to die. They get rich when America loses wars instead of winning wars. And they get rich when America gets weaker in the world. We want American strength, American security, and most importantly, peace. Let's bring peace back to the world. And Donald Trump is the candidate to do it.
I cannot understand how it's possible to hear those words and disagree with them, right? But somehow there are people that can hear these guys talk, can hear anyone say those words, and they can disagree with it. I mean, J.D. Vance is absolutely correct, right? I mean, these people get rich when we send our kids off to die in pointless wars. I mean, these people get rich when America gets weaker instead of more peaceful. And this is all true, man. But somehow J.D. Vance is the bad guy and the neocons are the good guys. I mean, they send other people's kids to die for what they want you to believe is a business opportunity.
Iraq has one of the largest customer bases in the entire Arab world. It has one of the world's largest supplies of oil, and it has one of the best educated workforces in the region. Today, Turkish, Chinese, French, Jordanian, Iranian companies are lining up to do business. But very honestly, we see too few American companies alongside our soldiers and our diplomats. Iraqis are looking to rebuild every sector of their economy, not only their oil sector, but agribusiness, transportation, housing, banking, and many others. And so it's time for the United States to start thinking of Iraq as a business opportunity. And the sacrifice that the Iraqi people have made for your freedom.
She sent other people's kids to die for a business opportunity, right? There is no principled conservative case to support these people. And honestly, man, we're getting to the point where there really is no principled liberal reason to vote for these people either, right? I mean, this is establishment, neocon, corporatist evil at its finest, man. And here's the thing, dude. If you're a liberal and you're lining up with the Cheneys and the other establishment old guard Republicans, then you should look yourself pretty hard in the mirror, right? These people are using those liberals to protect their legacy and protect their bank accounts, basically. And really, they're using them to destroy the only guy that threatens all of it.
And he starts to say these wacky things.
He's not fit to be president of the United States.
A consummate narcissist.
A narcissist at a level I don't think this country's ever
Donald
seen.
Trump's literally insane. And I think people are scared of him, and they should be scared of him.
Wholly unfit to be president of the United States in every way you can think of.
All right, an $11.5 million ad buy. So they've got money behind them. Who are these people?
Yep. Look, I think there's a bunch of never Trump people, Republicans, who have access to money, who have lived in Washington for a long time and have access to money. The problem with that ad, though, Leland, is the people who are going to nod along with that are never going to vote for Donald Trump anyway, right? And I don't know that it changes the mind of the undecided voter, which, again, we always talk about this. We have to keep an eye on that. Donald Trump is going to get 46% of the vote. Kamala Harris is going to get 46% of the vote. This bottle of water would get 46% of the vote if it was one of the two major party nominees. That's just where we are in politics. We're talking about a very slim number of people. And to be honest, like Adam Kinzinger saying that Donald Trump is insane, I just don't think that if you already thought that, you're not going to be for him. You're not going to hear that ad and be like, wait a minute, Donald Trump is insane?
Oh, boy.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's just, I don't get it. It's not a persuasion tactic.
Yeah, no, I think it's a fabulous point. And you think about that article, and I understand why Jonathan Martin wrote it. He's a friend. He's a phenomenal reporter. And obviously
Great
got
reporter
an enormous
and a friend
amount
of mine, too.
Yeah, got an enormous amount of pickup, and look, that's what reporters do. They write provocative stories, but it hits the nail on the head, right, of this sense in Washington that so many just wish Trump gone. I heard this in 2016, right? Before the 2016 election, you heard, oh, gee, Republicans just want to get rid of the nightmare of Donald Trump and live through the bad dream of Hillary Clinton, and then everything will be sunshine, roses, and unicorns. Which is patently false in this case, right? I mean, you think about Donald Trump, Laura Trump, the co-chair of the RNC, Eric Trump, Vice President Trump Organization Transition Team member, Don Jr. Effectively picked J.D. Vance as the vice president. Then you go Trump acolytes in the GOP. J.D. Vance, Byron Donalds, Matt Gaetz, Nancy Mace, Marco Rubio, Tim Scott, Tom Cotton. You certainly have to add Ted Cruz, who has gotten on the Trump train. Who exactly do they think, these imaginary Republicans, who do they think they are going to replace Donald Trump with?
Yeah, that's my thing. So I actually think Jonathan is tapping into a real sentiment. My issue is the sentiment is ridiculous.
Of course, this is not going to change the minds of anyone who's truly undecided, right? But just think about where we're at, man. And I don't know why more people don't think like me regarding Donald Trump, but the way I've always looked at Donald Trump really is about as simple as it gets. Every single person in Washington and in the media, and basically Hollywood as well, every single one of those people that I consider a bad person, for lack of a better term, regardless of their party, every single one of them all hate the guy, right? And the way I look at it, man, if all the right people hate you, if all the right people want you gone, then you're right over the target, man. That is the right guy for the job. No matter what you think of the guy, that is the right guy for the job. And you know what I really appreciate about Donald Trump? The 10 years of hate for the guy, you know, the constant bombardment, you know, the lawfare, the vitriol, the propaganda, the 24/7, just never ending garbage. Nothing has changed the guy. He has not relented. He's the same guy that he always was, which I think makes them hate him even more.
Look, the war is a total catastrophe.
Who do you blame?
And they have a civil war going on.
Who do you blame?
Well, there's only one person you can blame, and that's our current president. I mean, obviously, Rumsfeld was a disaster, and other people that are giving him advice have been a disaster. And Condoleezza Rice, who's a lovely woman, but she never makes a deal. She doesn't make deals. She waves. She gets off the plane. She waves. She sits down with some dictator, 45-degree angle. They do the camera shot. She waves again. She gets back on the plane. She waves. No deal ever happens. So, I mean,
You got to close the deal at some point.
You got to make deals. The world is dying to make deals, and we don't have the right people doing it.
The Vice President, Dick Cheney.
Well, he's obviously a very hawkish guy on the war. He said the war was going fantastically just a few months ago, and, you know, it's just very sad. I don't know if they're bad people. I don't know what's going on. I just know that they got us into a mess, the likes of which this country has probably never seen. It's one of the great catastrophes of all time, and perhaps even worse, the rest of the world hates us. You go throughout Europe. I travel. I do deals all over the world. The Europeans hate us. You go to Germany, you go to England, you go to places that, you know, we didn't have problems with. They all hate the Americans because of what's happened. We had a chance after September 11th to be the most popular, for the first time ever, to be the most popular nation on earth, and we blew it. Everybody, for the first time, people felt sympathy. I'm not saying it's a great thing to have sympathy in terms of yourself, but for the first time they felt a sympathy and a love for this country because of what happened. And we blew it.
How does the United States get out of this situation? Is there a way out?
You know how they get out? They get out. That's how they get out. Declare victory and leave. because I'll tell you, this country is just going to get further bogged down. They're in a civil war over there, Wolf. There's nothing that we're going to be able to do with a civil war. They are in a major civil war, and it's going to go to Iran, and it's going to go to other countries. They are in the midst of a major civil war.
This is why Liz Cheney hates Donald Trump, right? And this is why all the neocons and all the establishment swamp monsters all hate Donald Trump, right? And the amazing thing is the left hate him even more, but they don't even really know why, right? Most of them just do it because that's what their training says, right? And it's remarkable to watch. I mean, the guy from News Nation, he's absolutely right. Each party basically has a baked-in 46%, right? It has to be that way. It's the only way to explain how things are even close, right? I mean, all I can say, I really, really hope that 8% is with us this time, man. I mean, there's so much at stake, and I honestly can't imagine that the 8%, the people who refuse to be swayed by all the pointless noise of each party, I cannot imagine that they line up with someone like, the Liz Cheneys of the world. I just can't imagine it. But that's all I got, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you haven't already, be a part of our growth. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, share the channel. I'll see you in the next one.